Hi everybody, this is a quick overview of the plagiarism response system that we're envisioning when using a teachable moment or when tracking students' history of plagiarism and providing guidance in response to an instructor who wants to know how to respond to a student who has committed plagiarism. A third goal is to simply track the data, capture all this data of incidents of plagiarism without having to move forward with sanctions and official record keeping. So the assumption is that this will be something that will be in the classroom and the instructor will be able to click on the plagiarism support link or something about plagiarism. We don't want to call it academic integrity because that's so much bigger than plagiarism. Once they click that link, there will be three options. That's how we're envisioning it. And the three options would include the Teachable Moment Generator and Registry, the Plagiarism Incident Inquiry, and the iRoad. The Teachable Moment Registry and then as they hover over it, it would describe what those items are. And so the Teachable Moment Generator and Registry would actually help an instructor create a customized letter that contains tutorials, decisions that the instructor has made regarding the score on the assignment and how they expect the student to proceed going forward. This Teachable Moment Registry is something that will be generated automatically within about 5 minutes of the instructor clicking this button. If they don't want to do a teachable moment with the student, but they do want to capture the historical data of the student, they would click the Plagiarism Incident Inquiry, and they could also use this button to request recommendations for moving forward with this particular student. And finally, they can simply move forward with the iRoad. So once they click the button, it describes the Teachable Moment Generator, and completing this form should take less than 5 minutes, is our assumption. And they go ahead and put the student name and email, the instructor name, and so forth. And then we go into how did you identify the plagiarism, and you've got a few choices there. Depending on what you click, a text block will be generated, and this text block goes into the student letter that we're creating as they're moving forward in this Teachable Moment Generator. So the text block you can see below of what I'm kind of envisioning will be generated, but as was mentioned last week and this week, we want to soften this language. We want to make it friendlier. We want to actually make it a teachable moment rather than scaring the bejesus out of the students. So the types of plagiarism were provided to us by the Writing Center. These are the types of plagiarism that they use in the Writing Center, so we want to be consistent with their language. What will happen is the instructor will check off or click the boxes in front of the types of plagiarism that they're seeing in their student's paper. Again, depending on what they click, blocks of text will be generated below that will go into that paper. So for example, based on the type of plagiarism of not properly quoting, the student would get tutorials on quoting and in-text citation guides and some tutorials, and then probably a quiz. The instructors can go ahead and put together the consequences for this particular error, and from anywhere from no consequences at this time to a deduction of points, and they can pull down how many points that they want to, or percentage that they want to deduct. And the student would have a choice of recovering some of those points if they resubmit within a certain amount of days. So you can see there's a lot of choices for an instructor, and at the same time it kind of makes it consistent as far as what would be appropriate and what would not be appropriate. If the instructor wants wants the student to submit the work within 1 day, well, that's not a choice here. So it's kind of guiding the instructor with how to respond, what is appropriate and what isn't. And finally, the instructor would submit, and of course this wouldn't be required for this letter to be generated, but ideally they would submit the Turn-It-In report, and hopefully the student's assignment, or they may also just paste in an example of the missed citation. And in the letter, this wouldn't show up necessarily to the instructor, but in the letter there would also be a close that would say, we also recommend you look at the Ashford Student Handbook on plagiarism, and there can be sanctions if you're not careful, etc. And so then it would generate the letter, and in slide 11 in the notes would be an example of a sample letter. Again, we're going to soften this language, but you can see that it creates this really awesome letter by simply clicking through this tool. Once it's submitted, it goes to the registry. It is documented. The student event is documented, and but unless the instructor asks or requests for a response from us, we probably will not have the resources to be able to respond to every teachable moment that is generated. If we go back up to the top, another option is the plagiarism incident inquiry, and this is where the instructor could actually ask first before determining whether to move forward with a teachable moment or whether to go ahead and follow a stronger sanction based on the recommendations from the registry. So once they click on that, again, we need to know what type of plagiarism was committed. We will insist on the Turn-It-In report and the student assignment, and they will get a response from us within 48 hours, we hope. And so those are the two options that we are envisioning, again, using Qualtrics, and we hope that clarifies things and you can go into more detail in the notes. Thank you so much.